I got like 8 picks I feel like I could help people make money on.
The Celtics are undeniably a regular season wins machine, but he drags you to regular season wins like it's absolutely nobody's business. The Knicks certainly were in perfect flow state. I don't think that means they can't like carry some of that over.
All of these players individually has nothing to do with the players, but I'm actively rooting against this team this year.
Welcome back to another episode of Bucket Talk. My name is Ben Pfeifer with my wonderful co-host Matt Issa. As always, we're doing some over-under win totals. It is deep in the offseason, but it is never too early, especially now that rosters are mostly set, to talk about which teams we think are going to outperform expectations and which we think are going to do a little bit worse.
I'm going to mention, and you're going to place some bets here, bet responsibly.
Bet MGM.
Bet MGM.
I'm also going to say this is not betting advice.
But let's go over the parameters of the game we're playing here, right? We're going to play a little game between me and Ben. We're going 2 conferences. This is going to be a 2-parter. Okay, we're going to start out with the Eastern Conference, and then we're going to go into the Western Conference in another video. We're going to have 3 best bets total, agnostic of conference, right? Those will be worth 5 points if you get them right. Then we're going to have 9 high confidence picks. Those will be worth 3 points if you get them right. 9 medium confidence picks. That'll be worth 2 points. And 9 low confidence picks. That'll be worth 1 point. Okay, and we'll add up all the points. Whoever has the highest amount, just like in the game of basketball, will be crowned the winner. I had Fran, our good data scientist over there, pull up some numbers for me last season. This is not updated to reflect what happened in the 25-26 season, but I feel like it's still pretty interesting information. And so historically speaking, since 2001, a top 5 offense in the NBA averages 54.5 wins. Top 5 defense in the NBA averages 53.4 wins. A team that is top 5 in both statistics averages 61.9 wins. And then on the flip side, a bottom 5 offense averages 25.6 wins per season. Bottom 5 defense averages 26.6 wins per season. And then if you're bottom 5 in both, you average 19.5 wins. So I have some more information I'll pull up as we go, but just some stuff to keep in mind, because when you are in the market for, betting overs and unders or predicting overs and unders, what you really want to ask yourself is like, how good is this team going to be on offense this year? How good is this team going to be on defense this year, along with health and whatnot? And that'll help you kind of figure out if there is like an edge you can gain from making one of these picks. Because a lot of these, like I would say they put some pretty good lines at, and that's what really got me just kind of sitting there for a while. But Ben, should we get started here with the Eastern Conference? Let's go Atlanta Hawks. Would you like to share your pick there?
For sure. For the Atlanta Hawks, they're at 43.5 wins. I went over with medium confidence. I don't really know what to do with the Hawks, but you seem more confident than me.
Yeah, so I'm going to go under with high confidence. And I think the big thing is here, in the second half of the season when they really found their groove, if you look at their schedule, they're really beating up on a lot of like not so great teams. And there's just not going to be that many teams this year. I'm also kind of skeptical that Jalen Johnson is going to take another leap really to help like buoy this offense the way he's going to have to, because I feel like CJ could be due for some regression, right? He's getting older. I don't love the fit of Dort and Daniels together. I feel like they're 2 very similar types of players. I'm still kind of mad at them for dumping Issa. I thought he still had a lot of juice. I don't know. I just don't love this team. So yeah, I'm going to go under there at that 43.5 win mark. But I still think they're like a high 30 win team. I don't see them being like a mid 40 win team.
I mean, they won 46 games last year and got a little better. And I suppose you can say that like other teams got more better.
Yes, that's what I'm kind of thinking.
I think I trust this infrastructure enough. I think Quinn Snyder's a good enough floor-raising coach to where you can get to a certain level of competence on offense, even with a lot of issues like the Hawks had. I mean, they were 15th on offense last year despite having lots of problems. I think they'll have a great defense again. I don't think this is a team that's going to have like a top 5 unit on either end. Maybe if like Kingston Flemings is really that guy from the jump, they'll be in there. But I do feel like 43.5, I could see just like this team being incredibly annoying to play against with all of their defenders, with their transition and stuff. I do think, despite the fact that maybe their schedule wasn't great towards the end of the year last year, like I do think that they're built for like a regular season grind. It's like beat up on teams. Dort and Dyson, maybe in like the best case, or like in the most important games, aren't the best together. But it's nice to have both of those guys to just like rotate and cause hell. I think Dyson's best is like an off ball, like your 1 pass away defender. and Dort's probably best is like a pressing point of attack defender. So I do think those have some utility together, but I don't feel like I said, this is a medium one for me.
Yeah. I think the big stat I looked at here was Nickeil Alexander-Walker, career high in 3-point attempts at 8.1 per game, and then shot a career high 40% from three. Like, how often do you see that pairing and be like, yeah, that seems pretty sustainable? And Nickeil Alexander-Walker was huge for them last season. I mean, he won the most improved player of the year, right? So what if he regresses a little bit? Like, that could really hurt them. I don't know. I'm just kind of worried about this offense. I also don't see a pathway towards them being like a top 5 defense.
Shall we move on to the Boston Celtics?
Yes, please. The Boston Celtics, we both, not to give anything away, have them at over 51.5 wins. Ben, you feel a little bit stronger about them? This is the best bet for you?
To be clear, we needed 3 best bets for the rules of our games, and this was like the third one that I didn't feel so amazing about. But yeah, I mean, like you said in our little sheet, the Celtics are undeniably a regular season wins machine. They've won 56, 61, 64, 57, and 51 games over the last 5 seasons. They just win. Joe Mazzulla's Celtics just win. And I do think we're at the point where like it's reasonable to project some issues with the formula for the postseason. That's also not this exercise. Like, Paul George is still a great player, even if he's not Jaylen Brown. And even if, people want to criticize that long term, Tatum is healthy and incredibly good. And the Celtics just always seem to string together regular season wins. And, they're always a good team. They're always better. I mean, last year I felt strongly about them being better than the projections, and they certainly were. I feel like maybe they're getting a little more respect this year. But yeah, I feel like the Celtics over is just like a yearly tradition at this point, and I'm gonna keep going with it now.
Yeah, I mean, just to put something out there right there, the Celtics won 56 games last year and only got a combined 90 games from Tatum and Brown put together. So I feel like you can get more from Tatum and Paul George this year. At least you can.
The Celtics have also had a top 5 defense each of the last 5 years. And I would say undeniably upgraded defensively. What for whatever you want to say about Jaylen versus Paul George at this stage, I think PG is a better defender, and their defensive infrastructure is still going to be great because they're the Celtics. And they have Tatum and they have Derek White and they have Neemias Queta and they have Hugo Gonzalez and they have Jordan Walsh. It's going to be an incredibly good defense, as it always is, and I think there's plenty of pathways for them to be I don't know if they're going to be the second best offense in the league this year like they were last year, but that's what they were last year. They've been a top 4 offense for 4 straight years.
Yeah, I mean, if they get that top 5 in both stats categories, it's an average of 62 wins per season, and you are 100% likely to get 55 wins. So this maybe I'm kind of jealous of you here, Ben. Let's go to the Brooklyn Nets here. Another disagreement. I took the under with medium confidence. Sell me on the over case, Ben, here.
24.5 wins, just not that many wins. Like that's like we kind of discussed this on a previous show. I think I just trust the combination of Randall, MPJ, Day'Ron Sharp, and Jordy Fernandez enough to like buoy that up over that 24.5 win mark. And all you need is like a step from 1 or 2 young players to make that like at least somewhat intriguing team. Like the Nets were not good last year by any means, but I think despite having like a pretty awful roster, their defense was a little better than I thought it should have been. And yeah, I mean, maybe they just win 20 games again and I look silly, but I do feel like the upgrades they've made this summer are going to help them reach like a certain level of competency. And maybe I'm just wrong here. And the Nets are going to end up being bad again. But I think I trust the combination of coaching and some of the established talent they have to at least make them like a 26-27 win team is where I'm thinking.
Yeah, I was like trying to look at like some old, by the way, Ben had this with high confidence for those tallying it up at home. But I was looking at like some old like standings from like when the league really people weren't egregiously tanking, just to get a feel for like what the win disbursement might look like. And you usually do get one team in the conference who's under this 24 win mark. And I just feel like the Brooklyn Nets are probably the worst team in the East. It's them and the Bulls, but I just feel like I trust the Bulls creators a little bit more. I think the Nets creators are just not as proven. And then like, what if Randall?
I trust neither extremely.
Yeah, I mean, Giddey's a good regular season creator. He's not a bad regular season creator.
But so is MPJ,
Yeah, I guess. But by the way, the Nets added Keon Ellis. I don't know why. I'm just kind of excited about that. But let's move over to the Charlotte Hornets. Ben, go ahead and give us the...
Yeah, Hornets are 37.5. I went over with high confidence. You went over with low confidence. And I was originally in your boat, but the more I thought about it, the more I feel like the over is kind of a smash here. Like I said, 37.5 wins is not that many wins for a team that, first of all, won 44 games last year. We're 7th in net rating. Their cleaning the glass expected win total was 53.2. And even though they lost LaMelo, I think that that to me is like an issue for their ceiling. Like I still think the combination of Khan, Brandon Miller, their roster upgrades. I mean, I think the Bridges trade was a roster upgrade. I think Naz Reid is a great player who's like obviously not LaMelo, but is going to be very useful. Help their 5-out spacing, give them some more dynamism from the center room. Like I just have too much faith in Charles Lee, Con Knippel. Kobe White is still there. For this team to not win 37.5 games, like that's just not a lot of games for a team that was so much better than that last year, especially towards the end of the year. Like Charlotte were just a buzzsaw and they just could not get the breaks to go their way by the end. So yeah, the more I thought about this one, the more I felt like Charlotte was like, I feel good about the Hornets outpacing the win total there.
Yeah, I mean, I was in the same boat. They were still like a plus 1.5 last season with LaMelo off the floor. So they were like, like a 40, that's like a 42 win pace, I think, like a 43 win pace, a plus 1.5, whatever that is. So I do agree with you in a lot of what you said. I think that just the big thing that worries me is like I really wonder like how good an offense can be with Con Knuppel, Brandon Miller as your best offensive players, and then I just don't see like a really, really strong defensive foundation where I'm like, okay, no matter how bad the offense is, like they'll be able to fall back on this. You know what I mean? So that's why I'm a little bit more skeptical. It probably won't be a
top 5 offense again, but I still do, I think, believe in it to be like a top 9, 10 level offense.
Really?
I think so. Maybe I'm just, maybe I shouldn't be underrating the impact of LaMelo just because I love LaMelo, but I think Con taking another step this year. The fact that like they were a good team with a core of a lot of young players still, so I think you can bake in maybe some progression. Yeah, I just trust this team at this point, which is an interesting place to be with Charlotte. I'll say that. Let's go to our next one. The Chicago Bulls, 27.5. I went under medium. You went under low. I don't think this is going to be a good team. I mean, they have some talent. They have some. I mean, I also am not crazy about Tiago Splitter. I think Caleb is an exceptionally good prospect. I'm really interested in Matas entering year 3. I could see a nice leap for him towards being a top 50, 60 player in the league if things go right. But I just don't see I think their defense is going to be truly atrocious. Their center spot is just as rough as it was last year. And like you said, Giddey can do some stuff in transition. He's a fine regular season creator, but their guard room is rough. I don't know. I just have a hard time seeing this team. I thought about under high here, but I do think there's enough there to where I could see them sneaking their way to 30, 32 wins, especially since, I wonder if this new ownership brass is I don't care if we lose games. We just want to get the bad taste of the last Bulls kind of era out of our mouth. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, pretty much echo all your statements. Bottom 5 defenses, like I said, usually win 20 or average wins 26.6. So it's right around that 27.5 mark. I think the only thing worrying me is what if they're frisky offense? Remember the Pacers the year before they went to the Eastern Conference Finals for the first time. Remember that season it was just Halliburton. And they just had they were just playing really, really fast. They were playing super fast. kind of like a 30-win team, like a 52 win team. But yeah, that's the only worry.
True. Ain't no Halliburton on this team, though.
Yeah. The Cleveland Cavaliers here, they're at 47.5 wins. Last year, they won 52 games despite a midseason change and a bunch of injuries early on. But still, me and Ben both are going under low here. Ben, is there anything you need to say other than the fact that, like, I feel like everybody in the East got better? Like, all that teams like that. I don't know
what to do
with their ambitions.
I don't know what to do with Cavs.
Yeah.
I mean, the Harden thing is, I assume Harden's just going to be back, right? Like, still been weighted.
Where else would he go?
I don't know, right? But like, assuming Harden is back, like, Harden teams are always great in the regular season. Cavs are always great in the regular season, but like, you feel like something might eventually have to break against them. And like you said, other teams got so much better, and they weren't like exceptional in the regular season or anything last year. 2 years ago, they were obviously a buzzsaw offensively and really strong on defense, but they took big steps back on both ends of the ball last year, and maybe they can like inch back towards like the 2024-2025 form where they won 64 games and were, the second highest net rating team in the league. Hence the low confidence. I don't know. Maybe they win like 47 games. I really don't know what to do with this Cleveland Cavaliers team.
Yeah, I think they're just really good. Like, me saying under, I'm saying like they win like 47, 46 games, like you said. You know what I mean? I still think they're a playoff team. They're going to be challenging for a top 6 seed. They didn't get any better, And one trend I kind of had with these over-unders is I think I'm going to fade a lot of these overs just because I feel like with so many like teams just going for it right now, like it's all going to kind of condense. Like you're not going to have as many like 60-win teams.
The overs because somebody has to go under.
Yeah, I mean, basically, pretty much. That's a good way to put it. Yeah, Matt's fading the overs because somebody has to go under. But yeah, Cavs just don't know what to do with them. This one, I think, is going to be a fun conversation. The Detroit Pistons have, after winning 60 games, Vegas has projected some regression from them. They have them at 50.5 wins right now. But yet, even with that, me and Ben are both taking the under here. Ben, you have it with low confidence. I have it with medium confidence. What do you make of this Pistons team?
Yeah, they're definitely going to be a great regular season team again. This is, again, one where I'd project them with like 48 to 50 wins, probably. I still just think they're going to play harder than everyone else. They're going to, the JB Bickerstaff team, especially this Pistons team, is just like an effort team. And I do think that's going to help them. And Cade Cunningham, of course, gives you a certain level of floor on offense. But they were the second best defense in the league last year. Number 1 in defensive effective field goal percentage, number 1 in defensive turnover rate. Like, I do think the turnover rate especially, I mean, Issa is such a monster, but could go down. I think Isaiah Stewart was a big piece of that defensive puzzle that is no longer on the team. So, and John Collins isn't that level. So I guess the hope, right, the optimism with Detroit is, right, they balance out that defense and the offense. Maybe they're 11th in defensive rating, but they're fifth in offensive rating, right? Something like that. But I don't know. It certainly could happen, hence my low confidence for this under. Like it wouldn't shock me if they're still just out hustling everyone. Cade is playing like a fringe MVP level guy. Isaiah Joe and John Collins are legit nice offensive additions. So I don't know. I do think, like you said, with the strength of the East this year, kind of out, being more than what it was this last year, I just see Detroit, Indiana was injured, Miami, Philly, etc. Toronto, assuming Kawhi is there, won't be the same, or are going to be better. So I think I went under kind of by default with them. But yeah, we'll get to some higher confidence ones eventually. But this is not one of those.
Yeah, I mean, I think my big problem with them is so they took their problem last year. They had too many one-way players that were like defense first players, right? And what they do is they replace these guys with offense first players that are like still like flawed on the defense side of the ball. Like I don't know if I trust John Collins to really do anything huge for me in a playoff series. I trust
Isaiah Joe for what he is more than John Collins.
Yeah, but like John Collins, like I think Tobias Harris is a clear upgrade over John Collins, who they swapped him for, right? So I don't love that. I think this team gives me the vibes of like how we were just talking about the 24-25 Cleveland Cavaliers kind of just being a buzzsaw, and then they regressed last season. That's kind of the vibe I'm getting from this Pistons team right now.
I can see it.
Yeah, and I think that like losing Stu is a bigger deal than they thought. And then they just kind of like they pissed off Jalen Duren, right? That like never ends well, right? These kind of contract dispute stalemates never really end well. It's really just Duren and Paul Reed now. So they went from having like this really voluptuous center room. Let's get to Homer Town, Ben. Go ahead and give us your whole spiel here.
Yeah, Pacers. I mean, this is one that I switched from medium to high. Pacers over 44.5. I think is a smash of Halliburton. I think that's kind of it for me on this one. Like that's why I originally had it medium, and I'm gonna assume why you have it medium because like there is just like a level of uncertainty with a team that wasn't as bad as it was last year, right? But I think no one in Pacers land or the NBA in general is like necessarily surprised by who the Pacers were in 2025, 2026. Like it was clearly a gap year. They got Zubats out of that gap year, who is, a huge upgrade to what they had at center in 2024-25.
So that's what I want to ask you about. Obviously Zubats better player than Turner, right? But don't you think like Turner was just like such a perfect fit for what they had going on, especially next to Siakam? And do you worry about that?
He was a great fit, but I think just like having a better player is more important. And I think like I trust them to, make Zubats fit, or like to adjust their offense, to adjust their scheme to the point where he is a great fit, whether that's more like inverted stuff with him as a hub at the top of the key. Because like Siakam can shoot. It's not like he's, he's not like an elite spacer, but he is like a threat from outside.
He's gotten much better.
Yes, so you still have 4 credible spacers in that starting group, and I think Zubac just gives such a different level in terms of physicality on the defensive end and the offensive end, interior scoring. He's a better playmaker than Miles, and especially like the last season or two, Miles just really declined. So yeah, I think like assuming health is good, I would be, Homer, whatever. I'd be shocked if they did not win more than 44.5 games.
Yeah, you have him as high, I have him as medium, and I think the big concern is just the injury with Halliburton. Also, maybe the league caught up to him a little bit since the last time they were great, right? So we'll see. I'm also really excited to see Jarris Walker, though. Really excited to see him. I feel like this could be
that makes one of us.
This could be a good Jarris Walker season.
I hope so. Let's move on to our next team now, which is going to be the Miami Heat. 46.5 wins. We both went over high, interestingly. The more I've thought about this team over the offseason, the more I just kind of feel like with Giannis, they're going to be a smash. Like, Giannis is just so good that, like, and of course, his health has been such an issue, but he drags you to regular season wins like it's absolutely nobody's business. I mean, the healthy Giannis Bucks, not counting last year, 48, 49, 58, 51, 46, 56, 60, 44 wins in 17-18. That was the last time they were under 46 wins, not counting last season where Giannis missed a lot of time. Like, they always have a top 12, top 13 offense with Giannis, and I think we trust this Miami defensive infrastructure quite a bit as well. So all of that leads me to believe another one where, like, yeah, obviously health is an issue with them as much as it is with a lot of teams, but 46.5 wins is not that crazy. And I think when we've seen Spoelstra with this kind of talent, and we trust Miami, generally speaking, to make the most out of their talent. Like, they were 43 wins last year with a not that crazy roster and a lot of change schematically from the years before. So I feel pretty good about Miami beating that win total the more that I thought about it.
Yeah, I'm pretty much right there with you. I think the one thing I want to add to that is that one second, pulling this up right now. So the Adebayo, Davion Mitchell, Giannis, Andrew Wiggins, like foursome. I'll put Simone Fontecchio in there. He's a solid little defender, right? But I think they're going to be a top 5 defense this year, right? Especially with that twin tower rim protection they could have with Bam and Giannis. And if you're a top 5 defense, right, you win 45 plus games 89% of the time. And I know they need to win 47 games to hit this, but you get an idea, right? You have a really good chance, even if your offense is abysmal, and they have Giannis, so their offense is not going to be abysmal.
For sure. Yeah, I agree. I think they're right. Like, and again, it's not that interesting to talk about it like this, but it really just does hinge on Giannis's health. Like, when he's healthy, he is an undominable offensive engine at this stage of his career. Even if he's maybe declined defensively since his ultimate peak, he is exceptional offensively.
Milwaukee Bucks, we have another disagreement here. Their line is currently set at 26.5. Ben, you are an under with high confidence, and I'm going over with low confidence. So I know we've talked about it, like the depth thing. We talked about this last week on the Bucket Bite, right? But you just don't buy this depth at all?
Not in terms of like winning games this year, I'll say. Like I think there's definitely interesting pieces. I view this Bucks as like I don't know, and maybe they won't do this, but like it's just like a team that should be like spamming development and helping your players. Like I think Ryan Rollins is kind of it in terms of like the real established like plus starters. Like AJ Green's a good role player. You can like start if you need him to. Obviously
He's a plus starter.
Tyler, potentially.
Potentially, he has been one.
Yeah, I suppose. Assuming Khalil Ware doesn't take a leap, which I'm not so confident in, their front court is atrocious. It is going to be absolute food defensively. And offensively, like Turner and Ware give you some interesting stuff with like regard to spacing bigs, but both of them are extremely flawed at this point. And for all of his issues, Bobby Portis at least gave you a reliable scoring option at like the 4 spot. They don't have that anymore. Like Jaime is fine, but he's more of a wing to me anyways. And then like with the guard room, maybe someone breaks out, but like I like Yakuchonis for the future. Like Burries I think will be pretty good this year, but I don't think he's going to be the difference between like he's not going to give you 5 wins or something. So yeah, I don't know. I just do not see it at all with this Bucks team this year. And if this is like a team where they're just giving young players a ton of burn and losing a lot of games but developing, I don't think that's a bad thing necessarily. But I just don't see it leading to a lot of wins.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I just feel like the kind of all the cards are right for them. Like I'm not saying they're going to win. They're going to win like 27, 28 games is kind of what I'm predicting here. But I mean, Burries is more of like a win now kind of rookie, right? He's kind of like a jack of all trades player that can fill a lot of gaps for this roster. Tyler Hero is there. Jaime Jaquez, I feel like is such a great like regular season guy, like to help buoy you, like give you like 15 off the bench, right? Just bump Euro, finish over the rim, floater, like. I don't know, man. I'm feeling this Milwaukee team as like a little annoying out, right? They have like 3 guys that could like randomly explode for like 35 points in a game. I feel like that's got to mean something, right?
How many teams don't have that?
I mean, do the Pacers have 3 guys who could score for 30?
Speaking of the Knicks, I can't decide what I want to do with them. I'm literally switching this as we speak. I'm going to, I guess, stick with 52.5 wins as a line. Both of us have under low confidence, but I've been switching it back and forth between under and over low confidence just because, I don't know. I mean, like you wrote in our sheet, maybe championship hangover. We lost Mitchell Robinson. But I don't know. They're the Knicks. Like they're going to be good. I obviously trust this, their foundation a lot, especially if they continue their second. I don't know. Maybe I'm actually just going to change this to over because I'm just going to say the continuity year 2 of Mike Brown, this defensive system, but I don't know. Maybe it's 51. Maybe it's 53. This is one where I'm I don't have a crazy strong feeling either way.
Yeah, there was I was listening to a podcast. I believe it was the Thinking Basketball podcast right after the Knicks won the NBA title, right? And Ben Taylor said he's like the Knicks are one of the 2 teams I'm most interested to watch next season because, and he makes a really good point. He wanted to see we really saw 2 different teams last year, right? In the regular season, they're experimenting. They looked like copy and paste to me, the 24-25 Knicks. Not stylistically, they changed things, but I'm saying they're indicators, right? They're really good, but they didn't look like a title contender. And then the playoffs come, right? And after that slow start against Atlanta, it looked like they figured out basketball, right? Their offensive ball movement, their poise, the way they were rotating on defense, the communication, it just kind of everything clicked. And I'm trying to figure out, was this just a moment, right? Were they in the Matrix and they were just not the Matrix. The word I'm looking for is flow state. Were they in perfect flow state, right? And they're just going to go back to being the Knicks that we we know and love them to be in this era?
I think
Or
they certainly were in perfect flow state, but I don't think that means they can't like carry some of that over. I mean, like the playoff Knicks were playing like a 60+ win team.
yes, yes,
I don't
yes.
need them. I don't need them to be that, right? Like I just need them to win 55 games.
Yeah, but I mean, like you couple that with the East getting better, there's going to be a little like they don't. I feel like the Knicks, like especially next regular season, I'm like sitting there when I was doing this, I'm like, what do they have to prove next regular season? You know what I mean? Isn't it just about like getting through, getting a decent seed, and then you get into the playoffs, and that's when you really have something to prove?
My general, like I said, low confidence here. I could be swayed, but either way here. But I think I'm going to go over for now and just buy like the continuity, the roster talent, carrying them over that, over that stretch. But
Yeah, I went under low there just for those at home doing the bookkeeping. Ben, what do we got here? Orlando Magic?
Next, we have the Orlando Magic, 43.5 wins. I went over with low confidence. You went under with low confidence. So we're on the same wave here in terms of our confidence levels. But you went over and I went under. So what was your rationale for?
No, it was a flip. Flip. You went over.
Yeah. What was your rationale for taking the under on this Magic line?
Yeah, I mean, I was just talking myself through so many different things. Like they looked really good against the Pistons, right? They looked really good. Okay, that looked like the team that they envisioned when they kind of put this thing together, right? Jalen Suggs is running all over the place. This and that. Desmond Bane being that like secondary offensive player, safety net kind of guy. Paolo and Franz were making work. Franz's defensive versatility, Swiss Army knife, all the great things he does. And I was super happy about that. And I'm like, okay, maybe like last season's team, we didn't get to see the best version of them during the regular season because there were so many injuries. Maybe they get healthier this year, right? But then on the flip side, I'm like, they didn't really improve. I know they got a new coach, but like the problem is still the problem, which is Paolo and Franz are playing together, and I just like fundamentally don't believe in that pairing. I'm not somebody who's always like, yeah, we got to split this guy up and that guy up just because they had one bad season or whatever. But like this one is just really one where their skill sets are so overlapping. We have so many years of data now that just indicate that this is a better team when Franz is on the floor by himself. So unless something like that changes, even with Sean Sweeney being there now, who I respect very much, I don't see it for this team. So I'm under, but it's low confidence again because like they were really good for 5.5 games against the Pistons in the first round. The Pistons were a 60-win team.
Yeah, I don't know. I think we've seen a lot of good stuff from the Magic. I would expect their defense to progress back to closer to where it's been in 24-25 and 23-24. They were very injured last year, which I think is worth noting. Like just some positive health regression. I do think the jump from like Jamal Mosley to Sean Sweeney is potentially really significant, though. Like I think highly of Sweeney as like an architect of like those elite Mavs defenses, and obviously helping with San Antonio last couple of years. I mean, Wemby is there, but he's very well regarded as a coach. And their offense did quietly like take a small step last year. I think Bane like settling in and being there is big for them.
Bane was really good in the second half of the year. He was like borderline all-star.
Yeah. And like that's the kind of player who he is. I think of him as like a top 40-ish player, top 45-ish player, generally speaking. And even with some of the fit issues, I could see this team bouncing back and being like everyone, like probably ourselves included, are going to want to like, oh, the Magic are obviously the team that's going to fall out of the playoffs, right? In the East. But it wouldn't shock me if they're just like still very annoying and won like 45, 46 games. Were just really annoying to play against on defense. I think they're going to force more turnovers than they forced last year, only 12th in turnover rate after being top 2 for the last 2 years, and usually higher up than that in this recent era. And yeah, I mean, like they didn't really do anything this offseason. I think they re-signed Vooch. They brought one of
the best signings of the offseason, in my opinion. But
yeah, according to your model, right? That was one of the better value signings. But I trust Franz. Like you said, I'm not a huge Paolo guy. I agree with you, but I do trust Franz, generally speaking. I trust Suggs. I think Anthony Black can still improve, and I still like that center room, even though they lost Mo Wagner, who I did think was a very good player, but was also always hurt for them.
Yeah, I mean, they could, like I said, I was very, like, this is a low confidence one. Definitely see a world where they get better. And they have guys they can bank on, that can improve, take a step, like Anthony Black, Tristan Da Silva, who I love. Noah Pende, Jace Richardson. Jace Richardson could have a big leap. His college indicators, man.
They have talent.
Yeah. Jace Richardson's college indicators are crazy. Anyways, I pulled one up and it was like a pretty like reasonable one. I think it was just something about like being a freshman guard and like your BPM, right? So something very, very simple.
I think queries with like 3 or fewer filters I'm cool with. I think those can be useful.
Okay. So yeah, that's what I pulled up. And it was like his comps were like Trae Young, Lonzo Ball, James Harden, D'Lo, Reed Shepherd. I think those were the 5 guys, right? And those are like all like NBA caliber players. You know what I mean? So I'm like, maybe Jace got some juice. I know year one was not great for him.
I mean, like I generally feel the same. Like I like Jace quite a bit as a prospect. And I think he's, you know, whether or not it's this year or in the longer term future. Yeah, I clicked right now. Just reading like the Bartorvik similarity comps, it's reading down the list in terms of most similar to least similar. Con Knipple, Braden Burries, Tyler Hero, Luke Kennard, Jared McCain, and Ben McLemore are the first 6. And there's a lot more players in there too. So I trust him to be like a useful complementary guard at some point. Whether or not that's this year, I don't know. But if so, I think he'd be huge for Orlando to just have another like backcourt player who can really score and shoot the ball.
Mm-hmm. Let's move on to the Philadelphia 76ers, which I think is the one I've been waiting to talk about. Actually, I'm going to read the stats off first, then Ben, I got to say something it's very petty of me, but I'm going to do it anyways. Philadelphia 76ers win total is over under 50.5 wins. Me and you both took the under. You did it with low confidence and I did it with high confidence, but I'm going to say, Ben, and I love all of these players individually. It has nothing to do with the players, but I'm actively rooting against this team this year because but there's so many people who are just like, oh, they got LeBron. Like they got to win the NBA championship. It's LeBron, it's Embiid, it's Jaylen Brown and Tyrese Maxey. And just like, I feel like I thought as like as an NBA, we matured past the point of like, let's star stack and see what happens. But we clearly haven't. And I don't trust the lineup balance of this team. I don't think there is any of it. Lineup balance. And then the injury issues with like, you know, LeBron being in year 24, Embiid being Joel Embiid. And you never know. What if Tyrese Maxey picks up some nicks and bruises or Jaylen Brown? Like this team's just not super deep behind them. So yeah, I feel really confident about this under, even though it is partially in spite.
I don't feel as confident as you. I mean, like I generally agree that like the balance and like the construction of this team isn't great, but I also don't think that matters as much in the regular season as it will in the postseason. Like I think it's an interesting balance of like, I worry about Embiid's health and I worry about LeBron. You know, he's been healthy actually, you know, so I don't really worry about him missing games. Just like, you know, how much tank he has, like, you know, how much effort he's going to be putting in on defense on any given night, right? Rather than him like not being healthy per se. But then like Jaylen and Maxey are like historically great, like regular season innings eaters in terms of just like playing a lot of games and soaking up a lot of minutes and being okay with that. So I think that's a nice kind of point in their favor. I could see this being like they're over under like 50.5. Like I can see it being 50 wins.
Yeah.
Because I do think like the Sixers were a little worse than their record last year. Like they weren't a top 15 offense or defense last year, despite being a 45-win team. And I would expect their offense to be elite this year. But I think their defense is going to maybe even take a step back compared to what it was last year, which was like fine. But yeah, I don't know. I don't have a great feeling about it. If we're talking about like I'm pretty confident that this team is like going to not be like a top level contender. That I definitely agree with. But I do think there's a chance they win a lot of regular season games. You know, like I don't know.
I know, but like to win 51 games, you basically got to be like top 5 offense, top 5 defense.
I could totally see them being like the second or third best regular season.
Really?
Offense.
Really?
Like they could, like they play crazy fast. You know, I do think there's just like, again, especially in the world where like Embiid is healthy, you use him as a hub to get LeBron off the ball. Maxey is, you know, such an amazing off ball scorer. Hopefully Jaylen in like a situation where he's not the only like reliable creator is going to be more efficient and can expend more energy as a playmaker and like defensively. I think there's just like a lot of pass for this. Plus, you know, VJ getting better. They have Phylon. I like Dean Wade. I do think there's like plenty of path for this to be a great regular season team, even if like I generally agree with you on like the long-term big picture concerns with this team. But who knows? Maybe LeBron just going to turn back the clock and make us look stupid.
Maybe. Yeah, we got two more East teams. This one is probably my favorite bet. That was my favorite one to talk about, was that 76ers one. But this is my favorite bet of all of this. And
even with the Kawhi stuff.
I'm not worried about it. I'm not worried about it because here's why, Ben. So let's go with this. We got the Toronto Raptors at 45.5 wins. Okay. Ben took the over with low confidence. I took the over, made it my best bet. This is my number one bet. Actually, no, this is my number two bet. Number one bet in the Eastern Conference. And I don't know, I'm not worried. I'm not worried about, first of all, I don't think this Kawhi trade's getting rescinded. Like, it is just too good for basketball to have Kawhi Leonard come back to Toronto. And even if it gets rescinded, though, the basketball point of this all is like, I think this Raptors defense is so nasty with Scotty Barnes and Colin Murray-Boyles. Like, I think they're locked to be a top 5 defense, and they're going to be like a pretty, like, fine offensive team, especially if Kawhi's there. I think this is like, if Kawhi's there, I think they're coming out of the Eastern Conference. Like, I think they're that good. Like, I love this Raptors team. And I think that in all of like the props you could do for team props, I think this is the team that Vegas is really underrating, even with the looming concerns. And I would definitely, like, if you're somebody who plays the futures market, take the Raptors and everything you can.
I don't have much to add here aside from, like, if Kawhi's around and healthy, then yeah. I mean, I do think there's a consideration of, like, even if Kawhi is around, maybe he's not healthy, as healthy as you'd want him to be. But, like, even then, I trust Darko Rajakovic quite a bit at this point for, like, the defensive infrastructure he's built, like you said. And I think their offense generally does good stuff. Mm-hmm. And just hasn't really had the horses in the past to kind of get the results that you'd want. But assuming Kawhi's around, they will. And they had the 13th best offense in the league last year, even with a lot of limitations. So basketball-wise, I'm with you.
Yeah. And even if the Kawhi is, like, the trade's rescinded, they get Grady Dick back. So, I mean, they'll be fine either way.
Sure.
I still have hope for Grady Dick, man. I still have some hope for him out there. Ben, we got our last team. This is one you feel pretty strongly about.
Yeah, last team is the Washington Wizards, 35.5 wins. I went over with high confidence, and you went over with medium confidence. And I will say I had this one at medium before I switched it to high. So I probably feel more like medium high than totally gung ho. But I just think 35.5 wins is not that many for a team that should have Trae Young and Anthony Davis healthy, you'd hope. And then, of course, that's the issue, right? Like you're building an extreme house of cards with this Washington team. And, of course, there's the AJ Debinsa of it all, who, like, I think is a phenomenal prospect and will be a phenomenal player, but who knows exactly what his role looks like in year one, whether, like, Tim or Trae moving off the ball. What do, like, the Alex Sarr, Anthony Davis front court, like, offense and defensive setups look like? What do we get from, like, young players like Keyshawn George and Bilal Coulibaly and Trey Johnson, and Will Riley? So many guys who could take a step but need to for the Wizards to reach this ceiling, right? So somebody has to take a step. But ultimately, I think just with how many players they have and a lot of young guys I like, I really like Will Riley. I think he had a really impressive year.
Love Will Riley.
Yeah,
Will Riley.
His offense is so, like his creation. And
the drive game. Yes.
Awesome. I think Trey Johnson is going to be totally fine as, like, a real offensive weapon. Keyshawn took a big self-creation leap, and I'm curious to see what he looks like in a more off-ball role with Trey and with Debinsa and AD. I don't know. I just think this team is way more talented than 35.5 wins. And like you said.
Not to cut you off, do you think this team has sneaky top 5 defense upside? You got the Davis-Sarr front court pairing, that twin tower defense, which historically always boosts defenses, right? And then you get Coulibaly, Keyshawn George get to take a back seat now on offense because they won't be creating as much, right? And they get to be unleashed as these, like, rangy wings. I've heard people, like, I remember pre-draft, people would, like, tell me, like, Bilal Coulibaly moves just like Scottie Pippen. You know what I mean? And he hasn't really gotten to be that guy because, like, they're like, hey, man, like, let's see if you could be the next Jason Tatum and, give you 30 pick and rolls to run every game. And then they have, this is going to sound really pathetic because I actually really like this guy, but the guy they drafted in the second round last year.
Jameer Watkins.
Jameer Watkins is a freaking stud defender. Like, a freaking stud defender. I'm talking, like, all defensive upside, right? Like, this team could be really nasty on defense. I think the only thing stopping him is health. And then, they have this great defensive personnel and then the worst defensive player in probably the last 20 years along with it.
Any guesses on what the highest finish a Trae Young defense has had in his career?
It was in
2020. It was in 2021, if that helps at all.
Yeah, I know exactly the year. When they went to the East Finals, correct? I think they were 12.
They were 16th in defensive rating.
Oh wow. Okay.
So no, I don't think they're going to be a top 5 defense.
Okay. Did I come on? Admit I sold you a little bit on that.
I do
for
think
a
they
second.
could be good. I think they could be good and intriguing, no
Yeah.
doubt. I
Yeah.
just don't think they're going to be that good. And like beyond the tray of it all, I think Anthony Davis's health and status, like there were moments last year where he was looking rough out there, looking stiff, and potentially just injuries, weird situations.
Yeah.
But I do trust Alex Sarr quite a bit. I think he's pretty phenomenal and has a very high ceiling. But then again, I think top 5 is high, but like if they were like 8th, 9th, it wouldn't totally shock me. I think that's like within their range of outcomes.
Mm-hmm. Well, that about does it for the Eastern Conference portion of all of this. Thank you guys for tuning in, and be sure to come back for the Western Conference portion of this, as we will be doing this exact same exercise for all the Western Conference teams and their over and under totals. But until then, for me and Ben, thank you so much, guys.